Hello and welcome to the Nomadical channel again. Today I'm going to be teaching you about what type of laptop you should buy. This is for gaming laptops mostly, not for laptops to take to work or school. And so I'm just going to be teaching you about all the things that you want in a gaming laptop and how you can make the best purchase based on what you need. And I am not sponsored, so I wish I was, but I'm not sponsored, so hopefully you can expect the best opinion out of me. But let's get started. So first of all, of course, we have the CPU, which is also known as the central processing unit. I'm going to be analyzing Intel CPUs, just because I think they're the better of the two, Intel and AMD. But it's your choice. I'm going to be teaching about the Intel ones. So Intel CPUs come in many various types. And so as you can see right there, those are all the different endings, but let me basically teach you what it looks like. So as you can see right here, this is the name of one of the processors, the Intel Core i7-1065G7 processor. So Intel Core at the start, that's just their name, that's their brand. You don't need to worry about that. That won't change between any of their processors. The i7 brand modifier, Intel has 4 now main brands. They used to only have 3. They have the i3, which is a lower end brand of processor. They have the i5, which is the medium, not budget, but not extremely powerful. Not the best for gaming. If you're trying to get a gaming laptop, do not get an i3. That will not suit any of your needs unless you're trying to play something like a flash game. And then there's the i7, which is the option I would recommend. It's kind of a medium to good option. It's what most people get. And then if you're really looking to spend some money, this is the extremely high-end option, is the i9 processors. And so you can choose from one of those 4. I would recommend an i7 if you're looking to do games like CSGO, Minecraft, Call of Duty Black Ops. All of that works just fine. Even games like Satisfactory and other things like that that have very intensive shadows and other things like that will work just fine. And then let's go on to the next part. So as you can see right here, it says 1065, and that's going to differ. This one right here is a special type of processor, but here we have 10850, 10750, and 1130G7. So I'm going to actually be teaching you on this Intel Core i9 right here. So as you can see, it says Intel Core i9, so we already know that's an i9 processor. And then this number right here, the first 2 numbers, or in this one's case, right here, the first 1 number, the first 2 or 1 numbers are going to be the kind of the generation of that processor. So you want to try and get the processor that's either the current generation or within 2 generations before. So the current processors, the current generation is the 11th generation, which these are 10th generation right here. As you can see, it says 10 in the first 2 numbers, which means that this is a 10th generation processor. 11th generation is the newest one, but there's also 9th generation, 8th generation, 7th, 6th, 5th, all the way to 1st. I would recommend you get an 11th, 10th, and 9th, at least, if you're trying to look at a processor. Next, you'll see these last 3 numbers, 750 right here, 850 right here. If you see G7 or G and then a number at the end of it, that's a special processor. So this one just says 65, this one just says 30. But basically that tells you the power. So 750 is going to be pretty high up there. 0 or 150 is like the low amounts, and then 950 is the higher amounts. So the higher these last numbers are, the better it is. So this one's an 850, so it's more powerful than the 750, although it's in general more powerful because it's an i9 instead of an i7. And then if you're looking at buying one of these ones, which let me explain to you what this G7 means. That means that it has an integrated graphics chip that's better than most. So if you're looking to not buy a GPU, which I'll explain later in the video, then you should probably get one that has a G and then a number after it in your computer. And that'll mean that you have integrated graphics in a processor, and that's better than just having a normal processor and using its integrated graphics. I wouldn't recommend this especially if you're doing things that require ray tracing or extra shadows or things like that, but this is fine. Stuff like this is fine for playing games like Minecraft and other things like that. But as you can see right there, this one says 30G7, this one says 65G7, so The 30 and the 65 are the power of these specific processors, so a 65 is going to be more powerful than a 30. But the G7 on this one, it has G1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, all of those, and I think it may also possibly go higher. But that is the generation of the graphics card, and that's how good the integrated graphics card is going to be. Graphics is used for making shadows and other things, whereas normal processors, such as the Intel i7 and Intel Core i9, those are used for processing mainly the physics and other things like that. As you can see over here, I have this entire list, and as you can see at the end of these ones, it has a K and an H. This is what they mean. The G1 through G7 is the graphics processors. E is embedded, so that means that it can be embedded into other chips, or basically that means it can be used in really small spaces, which means that that's what's most commonly used in tablets and other things like that. F is basically it doesn't have any graphics processing in it, so that means that you need another graphics processor. G means it includes graphics processing, which is that's basically this one up here. H is high performance optimized for mobile, so that's what I have. That's basically a better processor but smaller, so it's a little less powerful. And then you have the HK, which is unclocked or unlocked. I will tell you what overclocking and unlocking means in a second. HQ, which is high performance optimized for mobile quad core. Quad core is a little bit less powerful than other things, but that's, sort of, it's not bad. The Intel i7 right here has 6 cores, as you can see right there. The i9 has 10 cores, so this one has quad core. So basically it's kind of like this one. K just means unlocked, so I'll be telling you about that later. S is special edition. That's not really anything special, it just means it's a little bit more powerful than normal. Nothing that special. You won't see it that often. T is power optimized, so that means that if you're running a laptop or you don't have a very good power supply, it'll work a lot better. U is mobile power efficient, so U and Y are very helpful if you have a laptop that you want to take for school or something, because that means that your battery will last a lot longer than normal. And then X and XE you generally won't be seeing in a laptop, but X and XE are basically for really, really powerful processors that will definitely get the job done for whatever you want. What unlocked means and overclocking. Unlocked basically means that it allows you to overclock your processor, and overclocking your processor basically means increasing the speed that your processor works at. And as you can see, the speed right here is 5 gigahertz on this i7, 5.2 on this i9, and 4 on this i5. And of course, the higher the gigahertz, the better the processor works. And so overclocking just means you can increase this number over what the limit is, which makes it generate a lot more heat, but can also make it a lot more powerful. So I've told you a bit about the graphics cards, and these ones have integrated graphics. But if you're not going to choose integrated graphics, which I would recommend, then you should get a graphics card. And so what's that? So I'm going to be using NVIDIA, which is the brand I prefer, to analyze my graphics cards. And as you can see right here, starting at the GTX 1650 and going to the RTX 3080, GTX 1650 is obviously the least powerful, and then the RTX 3080 is the most powerful. So these are all the current processors, graphics processors that are sold for laptops by NVIDIA. And the only other brand for this is also AMD, but NVIDIA in this section is actually much better. If you're choosing a GPU, Intel and AMD are about the same. In this specific GPU category, NVIDIA is going to be much better than AMD, just specifically because NVIDIA is only graphics chips, meaning they're really specialized. So starting off, we have the GTX 1650 and the GTX brand. You can notice that it says these three say GTX, and then the rest of them say RTX. GTX is non-ray tracing. RTX basically just means it's a ray tracing processor. RTX stands for Ray Tracing 10, I believe. So GTXs are what you're going to get if you're playing games like Minecraft, or you can even play other games but without, special effects and things like that. But basically, what RTX is going to help you with is rendering reflections, so reflections in water, in mirrors, other things like that, and rendering particles, which is going to be just, things flying through the air. So it depends what type of game you're playing. You can definitely turn those things off and still have a great experience. It just depends what you want. And RTXs are generally going to be quite a bit more expensive than a GTX, so if you're looking for a budget option, I would recommend the GTX. But let's take a look what these numbers means. So you've got the 1650, the 1650 Ti, and the 1660 Ti. So these number, the higher it is, the better the processor is. So as you can see, the number slowly goes up as you go through here, all the way to 3080. 3080 is the most powerful one they have, whereas 1650 is the least powerful one. And then, as you can see, there's some words after these in this category. Ti is basically the highest level of that processor. So a 1650 Ti is going to be much more powerful than a 1650. And then super is between Ti and normal. So basically it goes normal, super, and then Ti. So it just depends what you want to get. This list right here is all that's sold on laptops, so you shouldn't need to worry about Ti that much. Personally, I have the RTX 2060 normal, which suits me just fine, and it fits my price range. It's about $400 for one. But you can get whatever you want. If you're looking for a more budget option, I would recommend the 1650 or 1660 Ti, which are going to be a lot cheaper, but still fulfill most of your needs. As we go up the list, we have the 2070 Super, the 2080, 2080 Super, and other things like that, all the way to the 3080. 3080s are very expensive, but they're also very good. They can earn you FPSs in the thousands, somewhere around there. The RTX 3080 is very, very powerful, and it sells for about $1,000 to $1,200. You can sometimes get it for cheaper. And very, very few laptops have that, so I don't think you should be worrying about that. But if you do have one that has that type of graphics processing, it's going to be very heavy. Most of the ones I see are about 6.5 pounds. And it's going to be very loud. It's going to have very powerful fans. And it's going to basically be very expensive. The one I saw was about $2,600. And the RTX 2060, along with the Intel Core i7 10750 processor, is what I have. And personally, when I play a game like CSGO, I get an average of 280 to 320 frames per second consistently. Your computer, if you choose something lower, might not get that, but that's with max graphics settings on, and I really like it. RAM is something that you're going to want, definitely, but it's not that complicated to get. So if you go to Amazon and just search RAM, you can pretty easily find it. And basically what RAM is it's random access memory, which means that if a computer is playing a game and it needs to unload something, but then as soon as you turn back towards that thing, it needs to really, really quickly reload it, it'll store it in your RAM. And so RAM doesn't come in very high amounts, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, and sometimes 64 gigabytes. For a gaming PC, 16 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes will be more than sufficient for any game. 16 gigabytes is the recommended. And as you can see right here, we have 2 times 4 gigabyte, 2 times 8 gigabyte, and 2 times 16. That's generally what you want to get. You don't want to get 4 times 4 for a 16 gigabyte, because that means that you won't have as many slots, but the RAM won't be as condensed. That means that it can't work as fast, and that you don't want that. Same here. You don't want to get, you don't want to get 8 times 4. I don't think that's even a thing. And you don't want to get 4 times 8. That also is not something you want. So 2 times 16 or 1 times 32 is great for both of these. 1 times 32 may be a little bit big, so it's generally going to come in 2 times and then something. 16 gigabytes is recommended for most laptops. 32 gigabytes if you want to make sure you can do everything. And 8 gigabytes if you're on a budget. And 8 gigabytes still works fine. You can play stuff like Minecraft, but if you try to stream Minecraft or things like that, it'll have some problems with your computer. And then as you can see down here, there's a couple of megahertz values. We saw this in the processors earlier. That's basically how fast the RAM can work. And this doesn't matter too much in different RAM types. It's just basically how fast the RAM can transfer files. And this is mostly helpful when you're using a integrated graphics specialty core, because they can make use of that really well. But basically, this is how fast the RAM can be used by your computer, and the better this number, the faster this RAM is. And of course, lower is worse, higher is better. As you can see, there's a bunch of options on almost all RAM types. This one right here is a Corsair Harpoon RGB RAM type on Amazon, but there's plenty of different RAM types, and besides this, the brand that you get does not really matter, unless you want RGB, in which case choose somebody with RGB. Moving on, of course, we've got solid state storage versus spinning disk or spinning drive storage. So basically solid state is this one you see over here. It's basically just a chip. It's kind of like your RAM, except for a little bit slower. And what it does is it just stores all files in there, and it's pretty simple. This is a lot better if you're going to be carrying your laptop around places. It won't jostle around as easy, and it's going to be more expensive for more storage, but it's also going to be a lot faster at storing things. As if on my PC, I have solid states and not I have a solid state and a spinning drive. And when I try to save a 100 gigabyte file to my solid state drive, it'll save in less than a second, whereas this solid state will take around 10 minutes. So it's a pretty big difference between the two types of drives. But if you're saving small files, 1 gigabyte, this one will still be faster, but it won't be that much of a difference. And then as you can see in the solid state drive, what it has is it has a little, kind of like a DVD disc, and then little arms that write on it. That's how it stores the files, and that's why it's not recommended, because what it's basically doing is writing the files into that disc, which means that disc is constantly spinning around at extremely high speeds, and those arms are moving, meaning that if you move the solid state drive around a lot, it can get out of sync with the other things, and it can cause some problems. These generally don't last as long because they require a motor and other things like that. And if you drop your PC sometimes, then it's likely, it's also likely that they won't, but these arms could get out of position, and that might also cause a problem. So I would recommend getting a solid state drive as your main drive, and then having an extra one of these, just in case. Generally these are more cheap. These ones can sell for about $40 or $30 for a terabyte inside of your PC, whereas these sell for over $100 for a terabyte. So basically, I would recommend that you get a 500 gigabyte one of these, and then maybe a 1 or 2 terabyte one of these. And that way you'll have plenty of storage for everything you need, but if you have important files stored on this one, it won't corrupt when you drop your PC. All of this is great, but one thing to keep in mind is that all of this stuff produces heat. The more you work your processor, the more you work your GPU, the more you work your RAM, it'll produce a lot of heat from your computer. And your computer has fans to deal with that, but generally if you have an i7 or above, and if you have a GTX or an RTX 2060 and above, it may cause some problems. It may make it a little bit hot or make the fans a little bit loud for your taste. Personally, my computer, when I'm running something at max, say a really, really demanding game, my computer can get up to 210 degrees Fahrenheit, which may seem like a lot. It doesn't feel like that on the outside, but that's just the temperature of the processor. So what you might want to get is something that looks like this. This is a cooling pad. It's basically just a platform for your laptop with fans. You definitely don't want to set your laptop on a desk while you're using your laptop at max settings on any game. Sometimes that can burn your legs, not badly, but it'll, burn. I would recommend you get one of these, put it on your desk, and then put your laptop on top of that, and that will cool down your laptop sufficiently so you can run pretty much anything. And overall, I think laptops are a great option to choose. They work perfectly, at least in my experience with my laptop. And sadly, you can't add or remove RAM, which is something you can do in desktops, which isn't generally a problem if you got 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM, but if you got 8 and plan to add more later, it's very hard to add them back in later. But that's overall. I think otherwise laptops are great. I personally bought my laptop from MSI, and it works amazingly. There is a slight problem with some of their laptops that causes the GPU to jitter, which is the problem in my laptop currently. But don't worry, if you get the right laptop and make the right research, you should be able to find one that doesn't jitter. And overall, the jittering isn't a problem. It's barely noticeable if I have headphones on. The only reason it's noticeable for me is because my microphone picks it up sometimes, and that can be annoying. but it's not nearly as loud as the fans, and it won't cause any problems if you're not doing recording or things like this where you need a very quiet environment. But that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it makes a great choice, or it helps you make a great choice on your next computer. And don't forget to leave anything down in the comments section. If you have any questions for me, I'm always free to answer. I'll probably respond within a week, probably within a day. I'm pretty fast at responding. And if you really like this video, click the subscribe button and click the like button. Thank you for watching.